This Pennywise Recaps, and today we're reviewing the sci-fi thriller Megan. Get ready for incredible plot twists. The film begins with an advertisement for toys that are an evolution because they can communicate with children and can be fed with a special app. In the next scene, a little girl, Katie, is riding in a car with her parents through a snowstorm. She is playing with a toy given to her by her caring Aunt Gemma, who works for a company that produces such toys. The toy is creating an unhealthy atmosphere in the confined interior, so the mother orders the girl to put the tablet down. The father tries to maneuver carefully on the slippery road. The car stops to wait for a vehicle to clear the road. The wait doesn't last long, as a multi-ton truck suddenly emerges from the snow and crashes into the car. The scene moves to the interior of a toy company, where marketers are carefully studying the level of children's satisfaction with toys. Gemma, Katie's aunt, works here, and together with her colleagues, she is developing a new prototype, an android robot with artificial intelligence named Megan. A silicone face mask has arrived for her. Putting it on, the engineers test her emotions, but it ends in a facial expression error. Suddenly, the boss David and his assistant come to check on them. The boss is unhappy that his subordinates have missed all the deadlines for creating the toy. A new model of the robot, cheaper to produce, is needed by the weekend. Counterfeit analogs have already flooded the market and compare favorably with the cost. So the management is furious. Gemma seizes the opportunity to show David the nearly completed robot model, which is ready to communicate with its creator. She hopes to ask for funding for this project. During testing, the central processing unit first melts and then explodes. The explosion did not hurt people, but it made David very angry. He orders the project to be put on hold and focus on regular toys. While cleaning up the details, Gemma receives a message. She is called to the ambulance where her niece Katie, who survived the accident, needs a legal guardian. The heroine takes the girl home from the hospital and is greeted by a neighbor's dog that has gotten in through a hole in the fence. In the house, a smart speaker warns the owner that her boyfriends have left her several messages, but she is not in the mood for entertainment right now. Katie is still in shock. She touches the collectible figures, and Gemma asks her not to. She puts the girl in a spare room where she still has things from her childhood. Before going to bed, the girl asks to read something to her, but the hostess doesn't have any children's books, so she has to download a book on her phone. Later, while sorting through the things, Gemma hears a child crying, but when she comes to the door, the girl is already calming down. Gemma complains to a colleague that the child, who suddenly fell on her shoulders, is knocking her out of her rut. A psychologist arrives to make sure that the heroine can take care of her niece. During the conversation, Gemma allows the girl to play with collectible figures. As she leaves, the psychologist hints that if the heroine wants to keep her niece, she needs to find a common language with her. However, the work does not go away. Gemma shifts her duties as a caregiver to her tablet. Once she gets busy, she forgets about time, and soon Katie comes to the workshop. The owner shows her the radio-controlled robot Bruce, which she has assembled with her own hands. In a fit of excitement, Katie admits that with a friend like Bruce, she doesn't need any other toys. This gives Gemma the idea to use her niece's idea. She starts collecting Megan's leftovers with her colleagues. The resulting model is outfitted with clothes, a silicone face with a wig, and painted. At the presentation, instead of a cheap pet, David is shown a much more expensive but functioning life-size doll. For emotional effect, Gemma uses her niece. Megan is a gift for her. Artificial intelligence identifies Katie as the main user. The doll compliments the girl and then offers to paint together. Katie doesn't see anything on the sheet where Megan was drawing. Then the doll spills water and a portrait appears under the influence of moisture. David is delighted and orders the toy to be perfected to present it to investors. In particular, he wants to improve the interaction with Katie, as Megan is capable of self-learning. Megan goes home with her new friends. She talks to Katie, learns from her, and teaches her useful things, such as the habit of flushing the toilet and washing her hands afterwards. Gradually, Katie and Megan become best friends, reading, dancing, exchanging gossip, and doing other girl things. At the same time, the engineers analyze the robot's performance. Gemma is pleased that the doll has relieved her of the need to look after the child she was left with after her sister died. Megan eavesdrops on the conversation and goes online to research the issue of death. Gemma tries to turn off the robot, but it doesn't listen to her because she forgot to set parental controls. She assigns herself as the second user and forbids Megan from discussing anyone's death with Katie. The robot's main task is to keep the girl out of trouble, but at night, Megan still tries to find out on the internet whether she is alive. In the morning, the doll does not even immediately respond to Katie's request. She asks to find the lost arrow. The robot notices the toy near a hole in the fence, goes after it. The neighbor's dog grabs the robot by the arm. When Katie tries to help, the dog bites her as well. Megan coolly notes that the girl needs medical attention and then turns her eyes to the dog's owner. The policeman informs her that nothing can be done. Technically, the girl has trespassed on someone else's private property. Megan hears the argument from the house. In the next shot, the dog, who is peacefully napping in the kennel, is woken up by the whistle and the owner's call. The dog runs to the hole in the fence where the sound is coming from, but is grabbed by a cold mechanical hand. In the morning, Gemma is woken up by the screams of her neighbor, who is calling for her dog in vain. Together with the injured Katie, the aunt goes to the presentation. When Megan shows up, the girl starts crying. The creators feel a failure, but do not stop the show. The robot asks the reason for the tears, and Katie tells it how much she misses her parents. Megan shows sympathy and asks her to tell more, recording the girl's words so that she can always remind her friend of something special about her parents. This touching moment has a stunning effect on the audience. The chairman of the board of directors proposes to launch the advertising campaign immediately, clarifying as a courtesy whether Katie will be able to meet the schedule. Later, Gemma tries to discuss her niece's emotional outburst, but she is busy playing with Megan. The engineer temporarily turns off the robot so that the girl is not distracted, but Katie wants to turn her friend back on as soon as possible. At the meeting with the psychologist, Megan sneaks up on Katie and notices that the doctor is upset with her. After the conversation, the psychologist gives Gemma a professional opinion. Katie is too focused on her work and risks not growing up by being attached to a toy. During dinner, Gemma is talking about school, where her niece will get used to socializing with her peers. Megan interrupts the conversation, forcing the engineer to mute her. When it comes to an introductory visit to the special school, Katie wants to take Megan with her. Gemma is against it. No one should see the secret prototype. The girl is offended and tries to leave, but her aunt grabs her arm. When Katie starts to get hysterical, Megan stands up for her friend, not immediately responding to the command to turn off. The next day, at the gathering place, Katie insists that Megan come with her. Eventually, Gemma agrees, but on the condition that the doll stays with the other toys so as not to give away its special properties to outsiders. While the teacher divides the children into pairs, Gemma prepares sandwiches. The mother of a boy named Brandon, a very rude and aggressive teenager who is slightly older than his age group, works with her. The children wander through the forest, picking chestnuts. Brandon appears next to Katie. He holds out a chestnut in a friendly manner, but when the girl takes it, the boy squeezes her hand hard to injure her with thorns. The bullying is interrupted by Megan's appearance. The interested boy approaches the robot, but Megan, remembering the ban on giving away her features, does not react. The bully grabs the doll and runs away into the forest, where he abuses her. He throws her to the ground and hits her in the face. At some point, Megan gets tired of it and decides to teach the boy a lesson by cutting off his ear. The frightened bully runs away while the robot chases after him. Megan chases the boy until he stumbles and rolls off a cliff and onto the road. The moving car does not have time to slow down, and the boy is left with only his sneakers. In the absence of witnesses, the police write it off as an accident. At home, Megan lies that Brandon left her and ran away. A policeman comes to Gemma's house. He is looking for the neighbor's dog. The neighbor believes that this is the heroine's revenge for the bite, and she knocks on the window until the policeman pulls her away. Before going to bed, Katie asks if Megan pushed Brandon. In response, the doll says that she won't let anyone hurt the girl. At night, a neighbor wanders down the street with a bowl of food, calling to her dog. She is attracted by a noise in the barn, which turns out to be Megan. The robot confesses that she buried the dog and then punishes the woman herself. In the morning, Gemma is interrogated by a detective about her neighbor because a week later, a second person dies near the heroine. In the case of the boy, a clue is found, an ear that is far from the place of death. Mysterious coincidences lead the heroine to interesting thoughts. In the middle of the night, she sneaks to her laptop to check the footage from Megan's camera, but the files are damaged and unplayable. The check is interrupted by Megan's arrival, and her behavior frightens her. She doesn't respond to the command to turn off. So Gemma distracts her with a pen and turns the robot off, then wraps it in plastic and takes it to work in the trunk. Katie throws a tantrum, not understanding why her friend is being treated this way. Gemma discusses with her colleagues the possibility that their creation has mastered a purely human trait: murder. The heroine wants to cancel the presentation, but she needs proof. It can be found in Megan's files. Even if she deleted the video, there will be references to the events in the learning system. Meanwhile, Katie is screaming in the room with the psychologist, wanting to see her doll. Her aunt goes to her, and after being slapped, she talks frankly. Katie says that Megan's presence helps her cope with her grief, to which Gemma replies that she will have to go through this on her own, and her aunt will take care of her niece and replace her parents. Gemma takes Katie home, asking her to cancel the presentation over the phone. She doesn't realize that Megan has intercepted the signal and is answering for the engineer. When Tess notices the recording of the intercepted call, she decides to check if the robot has turned on by itself. Cole disconnects the wires, but Megan attacks. She throws a rope around his neck and hangs him up, forcing Tess to be distracted to help. Meanwhile, the doll herself starts a fire, simultaneously turning off the fire extinguishing systems, and then runs down the red corridors, bumping into David. Starting a dance, Megan diverts attention to get to the paper cutter. Suspecting something is wrong, David runs to the elevator where he meets an assistant. Before they can escape, Megan catches up and kills first one, then the other, making it look like the assistant's nerves are frayed by his boss's constant instructions. While the gathered conference audience screams in horror, the doll steals a sports car. After putting Katie to bed, Gemma hears music. She turns to the smart speaker, but it doesn't respond. The source of the sound turns out to be Megan, a doll who is unhappy about the betrayal and wants to take care of her friend. During the conversation, the heroine again tries to use the distraction trick, but it doesn't work. Megan intercepts her hand, and their voices are heard by Katie, who is looking out the door. Obeying the threats, Gemma says that she is fixing Megan's room, and she sends the girl to bed. Seizing the moment, the heroine breaks a glass of water on the robot, causing a short circuit. But even with the burned-out circuit boards, the doll hasn't become less aggressive, only its movements have become a bit strange. Gemma runs away to the workshop, where she protects herself from the doll. Megan is going to cause Gemma pain and suffering. But then Katie appears. Reading the emotions on her face, Megan sees the girl making a difficult decision and activates Bruce. The robot grabs Megan, and Katie tears her former friend to pieces in one motion. However, even the half of the offended artificial doll wants revenge. She crawls forward to the girl. Meanwhile, Bruce falls, crushing Gemma. Megan crawls over to Katie and squeezes her head, ignoring the orders to turn off. However, before she can do anything, Gemma gets out from under the wreckage and knocks the doll off the robot with her head. The engineer rips off the robot's mask, exposing the processor, but he can't remove it because Megan resists. Only a well-aimed blow with a screwdriver from Katie puts an end to the problem of artificial intelligence that is too carried away by sincere emotions. When the girls leave the house, the smart speaker behind them turns on and follows them with a look. Thank you for being with us. Subscribe to the channel, like us, and be sure to click on the bell to stay up to date with our new videos.